Professor Bart, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. And before we start, I just want to ask you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your background.
Sure. My name is Bart Kay. I used to be an academic in a previous life. I thought better of that for a number of reasons, including the complete dissolution of scientific rigor, discipline, and integrity in the field of academia, among other things. Now I'm a farmer, or I'm trying to be, and I'm a YouTube, influencer. I do consultancies with folks, and also I market a bunch of nutraceutical products. That keeps me busy these days.
So how did you get into this type of diet?
Right. I've always been hardwired to try the exact opposite of what we're told is the good idea. I don't know. It's just a personality thing. It may be part of my...
That's how it started.
Yeah, it's also, I also have an autism spectrum presentation that hardwires me to do the opposite of what I'm told to do. And so I kind of tried it when I first kind of heard about it. Oh God, what was it? Probably 11 and a half years ago, something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me on exactly how long. A long time ago, really. And it made sense to me immediately. And so I thought, well, I've got to try this to see whether or not it is what it's supposed to be. Turns out it was and is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mm.
So can you please explain us, because you refer to humans as carnivores, but
Yeah.
usually the population refers to humans as omnivores. So what is the difference between the two terms? And from an evolutionary perspective and physiology and anatomy perspective, why are we actually considered carnivore and we're not omnivores? What are your
Right.
thoughts on this?
Okay. So when I say humans are obligate hypercarnivores, what I mean by that is that that's what our biology indicates. That's what our genes indicate. That's what our organ systems indicate. That's what our anthropological past indicates, absolutely unequivocally, without question, that means. So it's like when you say, well, what is a cat? Well, a cat is a carnivore.
Yes.
What is a dog? A dog is a carnivore. A human being is also a carnivore. You could say, well, you could define what we are by the way we actually behave, because humans have, in the last 11 or 12,000 years, we've decided largely to turn our backs on our evolutionary process, our anthropological past, all of that, and choose a different diet, thinking that to be better. Falsely, we're wrong. That's not better. It's much, much worse. But the omnivorous diet is the diet that most human beings eat.
Yeah.
So you could say those people are omnivores because that's the way they behave.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean they're doing the right thing. They're not.
Yeah,
They're doing the wrong thing.
we can, eat some plants and survive even for a lot of years, but that's
Sure.
obviously not optimal. But even cats and dogs, we feed them grains now, like majority of people do, and they survive for, not the whole time they could survive, like they usually die earlier for humans' diseases. That's how we call them. Because if they were in the wild, they didn't get cancer or diabetes or, this type of diseases.
Exactly. And the second part of your question was about evolutionary process and all of that.
Yeah.
The absolute slam dunk is the stable isotope testing of nitrogen found in the collagen derived from the long bones of human remains from all over the planet of any age over about 11,000 years old, right up to well over 100,000 years. They all agree within a 5% band. They all say the same thing, and they all say what human beings actually did eat. Animal material versus plant material. The answer is human beings ate almost nothing but animal material our entire history on the planet, right up to the agrarian revolution, when we suddenly decided, because some smart cookie said, hey, let's stop chasing animals around the plains. Let's grow grasses and eat their seed instead. Won't that be a good idea?
Yeah. How did that work out?
Well, second worst thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
In terms of nutrition. The worst thing we ever did was add seed oils. So,
would you say seed oils are worse than carbohydrates?
Yes, without any hesitation whatsoever, yes.
Why?
Because of the apparent associated outcomes that look pretty damning. There are no scientific experiments by which we can prove cause and effect for any aspect of heart health outcome and dietary aspect of any kind, mind. So I have to make an educated statement on the basis of some pretty clear, pretty powerful associations, as opposed to the ridiculously weak associations that most so-called nutrition scientists use to assert what we should eat. I'm talking about powerful associations. Seed oils seem to be pro-inflammatory. They are very, very vulnerable to oxidative damage, producing very, very dangerous primary and secondary oxidation products. They displace saturated fatty acids from things like cell membranes where we need the saturated ones for the right shape, and they end up getting inveigled into that material for, years at a time. And the association with the downturn in public health and the upturn in the incidence of all the big killers in Western society all actually equates with the addition of seed oils when we were told suddenly to start avoiding saturated fat, which is actually absolutely blameless in terms of health outcomes, both by association and by biological design, because that's the stuff we evolved on. So it makes no sense to blame that for health conditions, none at all. And then they turn around and say, well, there's some associations that say that saturated fat is associated with a problem, except there are 5 major meta-analyses with multi-million person years of follow-up available on this topic, and all 5 agree that actually there is no meaningful association between saturated fat intake, as reported by people in those studies, and their health outcomes, let alone a cause and effect artifact, which would require an experiment, and that doesn't exist. So,
is olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil, is it considered a seed oil, or is it a little bit better?
Coconut oil is considered by many to be not so bad and blameless because it's actually more saturated than your average animal fat. However, there is recent indication by a number of pretty good commentators, including Dr. Paul Mason, that coconut oil actually is just as bad as all the other plant-based oils because of the phytosterols, which cause a problem, not because of its saturation status. And he might be right. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it yet. But definitely all plant-based poly and monounsaturated oils seem to be contraindicated in terms of optimizing one's affect in terms of their lifespan and health span.
Why are saturated fats so essential for human health?
Well, because that's the very source of energy, for want of a better term, that we have evolved on for about 5 million years. That's what our system is geared to run on. That's the fuel it's like, why would you put 91 octane fuel in a car that's designed for 91 octane fuel? Because that's what it's designed for.
Yeah.
You wouldn't put 96 in there because it's the wrong stuff.
A lot of people say that you need carbohydrates, otherwise your brain is not going to function properly. What do you think about that?
Right. Well, that's a fact. Your brain does require some carbohydrate to run. Luckily, your body is able to generate all the glucose required for all purposes required itself from non-carbohydrate precursors. It's a process called gluconeogenesis. That combined with ketone production, provides all the so-called energy that's required by the brain. You do not require a single gram of carbohydrate from your diet ever, not one.
Mm-hmm. So usually people say that gluconeogenesis is more like a starvation mode, but
that's just ignorant. It's just ignorant.
Yeah.
Sorry for those that say that.
No, it's okay. Because it works 24 hours. Like even if you eat carbohydrates, gluconeogenesis is still working, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't use the protein from the muscle. It doesn't disintegrate your muscles, right?
Correct. It does not. Why would it? I mean, after what is it? Well, at least 3,800 million years of evolution, probably much more than that, actually, why would our body design be so inane as to store body fat when we have excess food intake for use later? And then when we don't have enough intake, instead of using that which was stored for use later, we use muscles. That makes no sense. It's ridiculous. It's fundamentally one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Yeah,
Yeah, I know. So what is your usual diet? What do you usually consume?
Personally, I consume a diet which ranges most of the time between 90 and 95% carnivore, with 5% transgressions of all sorts of different kinds, like coffee. I enjoy coffee. Okay. Sometimes I take in small amounts of plant material here and there. And then there are other times when, because of whatever's going on around here, I might go completely off the rails for a short period of time. Then I suffer. Then I get back on the rails, pick myself up and carry on. What people need to understand is what I talk about on my YouTube channel is that which is ideal, 100% carnivore all the time. I'm not suggesting I myself behave in a way that is ideal. And in fact, there are very few human beings out there that really genuinely do. Some of them are out there that do.
The coffee, it's not ideal, right?
Coffee is not ideal, no.
Why is it not?
Well, it's a poisonous plant alkaloid. It's a recreational drug. It's a stimulant, which can cause all sorts of problems. It can activate all sorts of pathways that shouldn't be activated. It can lead to adrenal problems. It can lead to sleep problems. It can lead to all sorts of problems if it's overdone. It can certainly lead to elevated blood pressure.
Is having one coffee a day overdoing it?
Depends. How long's a piece of string? Your mileage will vary. It's unlikely that 1 cup of coffee a day is going to be a problem for most people.
What about coffee in the stomach? Is it like a problem for a cortisol perspective?
I don't think it's any different whether you have food at the same time or not. Okay. I've never seen anything that would convince me otherwise.
Do you think coffee breaks ketosis in the morning if you have it?
Even if it does, so?
It's not a problem. Okay, let's say someone wants to be in ketosis for like an extended period of time.
Well, then I would suggest to them that they need to relearn about ketogenesis and ketosis, and they need to remap their goals, because the goal of a ketogenic diet is not to be in ketosis all the time, or to have ketones all the time, or to have a nice purple end on that stick that you eat on.
Yeah, I see a lot of coaches on Instagram that they promote this being in ketosis all the time, because otherwise you're not going to be able to lose weight.
Well, that's rubbish. Absolute nonsense. Ketosis is one of many pathways in the human metabolic system that is activated when it ought to be for the reasons it ought to be. You are still perfectly capable of oxidizing and using fat stored on your body for energy without reference to the ketogenic pathway. It's called beta oxidation. It's the normal pathway by which fats are oxidized.
Okay, so if you eat like a carnivore diet, for example, people tend to be in ketosis most of the time because they don't have carbohydrates.
It's not so.
Because I saw all of your videos that you're for the OMAD 1 meal a day, because big goal of
look, let's put this one to bed. Let's get this one squared away, because no, a 100% carnivore diet is not particularly a ketogenic diet, actually. Why not? Because a 100% carnivore diet has people tending to consume a larger degree of protein, and protein is gluconeogenic. So you actually don't find carnivores particularly, on average, have very much ketones at all, in fact.
So that's what I found, because I was trying to test, and I'm like always, okay, I'm not in ketosis. This is weird, because everybody tells you, like, if you don't eat carbohydrates, you're going to get in deep ketosis very quickly and very easily. But
which is nonsense.
It wasn't working.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
But if you eat 1 meal a day, do you tend to be in ketosis for, let's say, like 20 hours, and then after digestion, you're not in ketosis anymore, like after eating?
Yes, you will cycle in and out of ketosis to some degree, depending how much protein that you are taking in and how many meals a day that you are taking in. Yes.
So is it good for the body being in ketosis for a certain amount of time, or it doesn't matter?
If you're in ketosis all the time, 24/7 for a long period of time, that is actually very, very bad, probably. You do not want that. That is not a good idea. Why not? Because it will mess up your thyroid function. It'll probably mess up your ability to retain your electrolytes as well, because of the insulin axis issue with the kidney tissue becoming leaky, etc. It will tend to lead to a reduced basal metabolic rate, which is not a good thing. You are supposed to drift in and out of ketosis on a daily basis, at least once.
At least one.
Yeah, so these people that think ketogenesis is the goal and being in ketosis all the time is the goal and having purple on the stick, no, people. You've been misinformed. You've been had, I'm sorry.
What is the amount of protein that you need to get out of ketosis?
To get out of ketosis, it depends. Yeah. Your mileage will vary. It depends on your body mass, your gender, your activity level, your age and stage, all sorts of things. What I normally suggest to people is, at large, as a rule of thumb, for want of a better term, you should probably aim for an intake of 2 grams of protein per lean kilogram of body mass in one meal once a day, plus or minus 10%.
Why only in one meal?
Because you need a whack of protein to lead to the gluconeogenesis to kick you out of ketosis. The very thing that people on keto diets are trying to avoid. Oh, will this kick me out of ketosis? Will that kick me out of ketosis? I hope so, because that's what you want.
Okay, so what if someone is eating, for example, they're eating 2 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein a day, but they're divided in 3 or 4 meals.
Then it's less likely that they'll be kicked right out of ketosis. They might just drift along. It's not ideal.
Why is it not ideal?
Well, because the amount of protein taken in at one time is the thing that's likely to lead to the effect that we're looking for.
Okay. And so having all of your protein in one meal, does it have any effect on your muscle mass or your ability to put on muscle?
No, probably not.
Zero. Okay.
Your muscle mass is determined almost entirely, beyond your genes, that is, by your training status. And not really very much to do with your nutrition at all, in fact. Nutrition has very little impact.
What is the best training style for muscle growth?
Well, hypertrophy training would be the best training for hypertrophy, funnily enough. And that would be heavy resistance training, low reps, low sets, low volume, big weights.
How many times a week should a woman, for example, train?
3 to 4 times, the same as anybody else, and never on consecutive days. You don't need body splits either. You do a whole body split every time, whether you're a woman or a man, until you are an advanced hypertrophy athlete.
Any other type of training that is optimal for human beings?
High intensity burst and repeat training is great. And if you want incidental exercise, then that should be very low intensity, like walking. The whole bit in the middle, the whole so-called, endurance training, aerobic training, they call it, some people, whatever. That's the bit you need to absolutely avoid, actually. That's not good for you.
Yeah, I can feel it. I was one of, a lot of girls that just want to lose weight, and so they do a lot of cardio. Well, that never works.
Of course it doesn't work.
So why, from a hormonal perspective, that doesn't work?
Well, I mean, you could say from a hormonal perspective, but just at large, there are a myriad of reasons why endurance training, cardio training, that kind of training is not great for fat loss. Number one, most of that training at the time that you're doing it will be subserved by carbohydrate oxidation and not by fat oxidation per se so much. Secondly, it tends to make you feel hungry. Ergo, eat more. the elevation in your metabolic rate really only lasts 25 to 30 minutes at maximum beyond the actual exercise period and doesn't start until you start exercising. So it's a short-term thing. There's just nothing to commend it, basically. And in terms of, well, hormones and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, that could be a whole can of worms, couldn't it?
Is there anything in particular that happens hormonally in your body while you're doing that type of cardio?
Well, what are you referring to?
For example, like cortisol, stress, or stuff like that.
Right. Well, a lot of people refer to cortisol as a stress hormone.
Yeah.
That's just a label. It's just a hormone. Sure, it has roles in the body. It's around when there is stress on the body, but stress isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Depending on
distress is a bad thing, i.e. a stress response that is too long-lived or too high in its magnitude or whatever else. But this whole idea that cortisol is universally a bad thing and should be avoided, I don't buy it. Because, I mean, no stress is dead, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't want no stress. You want some.
Yes. Yeah. So even fasting, for example, that's a stress for your body? Is it a good stress or a bad stress?
Well, who's to say fasting is in fact a stress? Again, that's a label that's been applied to it. It might be stress. It might be perceived as stressful by the person because maybe they're addicted to carbohydrates, for example. And, oh, God, I'm hungry. This fasting thing's difficult. This is stressful. Mm-hmm. But is their body actually under stress? Well, maybe until the ketogenic process builds up as it will in that case. Maybe until they grow enough enzyme to be able to more effectively oxidize fat, perhaps. But again, a short-term period of stress is fine, so long as it doesn't become a long-term period of stress, which then you'd have to define as distress.
Okay, because I see a lot of women coaches online that they say fasting is bad for women compared to men because we have different hormone cycle throughout the month.
Right. Well, people that want to say that, I would suggest to them that they back that up with something. Fasting is bad for women. Okay, well, what's your source for that?
I don't know.
Exactly. They don't either. They're just repeating what they've heard somewhere else.
On like the cortisol, it's high in the morning, so you want to keep it low, so you need to eat a little bit.
Again, same argument, isn't it? Cortisol is bad necessarily? No.
So men and women can fast the same exact way.
Absolutely. You see, the thing is, a person either it's indicated that a person fast or not, case by case, and gender has very little to do with it. Very little. It's one of the things that comes into consideration a bit on an individual picture about a person's health status individually. But the things that determine for me when I'm consulting with folks that there might be a good idea for them to do fasting, none of those things have anything to do with their gender.
Mm-hmm. So who should not fast?
Someone who is already badly underweight, they should not fast. Someone with poorly controlled type 1 diabetes mellitus should not fast. For example, I don't know. There are other things there that
pregnant women.
Pregnant women probably shouldn't fast, at least for extended periods. Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's one that does relate to your gender. I'm sorry to be a bigot, but only women can get pregnant.
Yes, I agree with that.
Oh, well, there you go. That's us cancelled. Goodness.
That's okay. I don't even want to start that. What about kids?
Kids, depending. Is the kid overweight? In which case, they should fast.
If it's not. Yeah. Okay. So you think everybody should fast for at least 24 hours a day?
No.
Like just having one meal a day, it's optimal? Or...
Oh, right, I see what you mean. Right. Yes, I think that one meal a day is optimal for human beings. Mm-hmm. This whole idea that we need to eat multiple times a day, who on earth came up with that idea? And what was the basis of that? Again, what's the source?
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from?
And we should eat all of our protein during that meal.
Well, yeah, because if you're eating once a day, you're eating all of your everything in one meal, aren't you?
What if someone genuinely cannot consume all of that food in only one meal?
Well, there are a number of reasons why a person might not be able to do what is ideal. Maybe they are very badly damaged by their life hitherto and other things that have been going on, sure. In which case, I would suggest that a person get as close as they possibly can and continue to work towards that which is optimal in a progressive way. Of course, all my commentary for a general audience needs to be generalized, and the generalized advice is what is ideal for the average person.
Should we do one meal a day every single day, or do you recommend fasting for even like an extended period of time?
Again, extended fasting beyond just eating once a day, that depends case by case on what is presented, as in what is going on for that person.
Mm-hmm. So it's usually for people that have they need to lose weight, or they have
a person, right? So a person who is obese.
Mm-hmm.
A person who has autoimmune issues, they are two indications that might lead to a suggestion that they might want to try some fasting to see what happens with that. There are others as well, but that's just two off the top of my head quickly.
Do you think people should just jump into fasting? Like
depends on what period of time we're talking about.
Let's say one meal a day. If they're on a standard,
yes, they should go to they should go to that. Yep. If you need to ramp down, if you can't cope, fine. But most people can go straight to one meal a day and be okay.
Okay. So for example, I see in the carnivore community a lot of coaches that they say that people should do something that's called priming to begin with for 2 or 3 weeks, which is like eating as much as they can 2 or 3 times a day to feel like very full and satiated, and then they can jump into fasting later.
Sure. Yeah, I did a period of priming myself. It was first proposed by a friend of mine called Coach Raymond Nazen, and the idea being that the priming makes sure that a person has all the macro and micronutrients on board that a human being needs, because a lot of people come from a place of destitution of nutrient despite an overplus of food. Because it's the wrong kind of food that people are eating in general. So that's what the priming is all about. It's about making sure you've got everything on board, and eating that much food is actually, a lot of people think, hey, I can eat all the food I like. That's great. That's awesome. No, it's not awesome. It's really uncomfortable, and it's really unpleasant to eat that much food. It's horrible. It's supposed to be a 2-week period. And after 1 week, I always go back to Raymond saying, can I please stop this now? This is awful. And, I know it's not that way, but it felt to me at the time like if I never see food ever again in my life, that'd be just fine. So it makes the fasting easier in terms of, God, I don't want any more food.
It's not like 100% necessary to start with that.
No, it's not 100% necessary. It's just one tool that's available in the toolbox.
Would you think it's better for people to start with that and then transition into fasting?
Case by case.
Case by case.
Yeah. Okay. Everything's case by case a bit. Yeah.
Give me an example of the two different cases.
Well, a person who is really showing signs of autoimmune dysfunction, I probably would suggest that they try the priming thing before getting into the fasting. A person who is already heavily obese, I probably wouldn't suggest the priming to. There's just two off the top of my head. There are others as well, but
So another thing that I usually see is pushing these very, very, very high fat diets.
Yeah.
Even for people that are trying to lose weight, and even doing like a fat fasting where people only eat fat for 3 days, and it seems that they're losing weight.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, there is a mechanism by which eating nothing but fat could lead you to strip some fat off your body. Yes. Depending how much fat you eat.
Okay.
It's the fact that it's all fat, no protein, no carbs that's doing that. It's not necessarily that there's a lot of fat. There might be more fat than a person would normally eat, but they're still overall not necessarily eating more actual food in terms of the so-called energetic content of it, so-called. That's for another day. Or maybe it's for today. I think it's on your list of questions, actually.
I think it's for today.
Okay, well, that's for today. We'll get to that when that question comes up then.
Yeah, yes. So if someone is trying to lose weight on the carnivore diet, should someone eat high fat? Or should someone eat leaner cuts of proteins?
Okay. So let's be clear about what you're asking, because weight is made up a lot of different ways, isn't it? Bone.
Lose fat.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. If you want to lose fat, there are a number of different approaches that might be appropriate for you case by case. And a diet which is entirely fat, so long as it's the right amount of an entirely fat and it's carried on for the right period of time, not too short and not too long, might be effective.
Okay. What about a diet that it's not entirely fat? It's a carnivore diet with your 2 grams per kilogram of lean mass plus high fat.
Right. Well, again, what do you mean by high fat?
I don't know, a stick of butter a day. That's like...
Okay. Well, if a person is eating the right amount of protein and fat to satiety, that's probably the right amount of food for them. And over time, their body composition, ergo their fatness, ergo their weight on a scale, will tend to normalize to biologically, genetically what it ought to be over time. Sure.
What if
someone it's a process.
Eating a lot of fat in form of dairy, like a lot of cream and yogurt and milk?
Well, milk is different from yogurt and yogurt is different from cream in terms of its likely effect, because when you start mixing fat with sugar, that means that that material will be dealt with differently than if it was all fat or all sugar.
But isn't it dairy, even cream, that it's all fat, easy to overeat?
I haven't found so personally.
No, okay. Because I find I could eat a lot of like whipped cream, for example.
But is that a bad thing?
I don't know. Is it?
Well, it depends what else you're eating and how much is a lot, I suppose.
Oh yeah, you're putting me in a weird situation now.
Asking the questions.
So do you think dairy is appropriate for human nutrition?
That's very individual as well. Some people do quite well on dairy and some people do very badly on dairy. It's at least 2/3 of the population that have some degree of dairy intolerance.
So if we were to eat dairy, it would be better to eat, for example, cream or aged cheeses that are higher in fat compared to, for example, milk that contains lactose, so carbohydrates.
All else being equal, yes.
Is there any problem with dairy that you would say?
Well, again, it's very individual. Some people do have huge problems with dairy. Some people don't. If there is a problem, it's mostly with milk. And the problem mostly with milk is that it's a mixture of fat and sugar. And that's the very thing that can cause a problem.
Protein in dairy, casein and whey.
Some people react badly to it, others don't.
Are those protein insulinogenic? Do they spike insulin, for example, if you take protein powder?
Well, it's possible, depending on the exact makeup of the protein powder and how much carbohydrates in it.
Normal, without any artificial sweetener or without anything added to it.
You mean like carbohydrates? Because a lot of protein powders have got carbohydrate filler.
Let's say that it's just beef protein powders.
Right.
It's plain. Is that...
Well, my first question would be, why on earth are you taking protein powder?
I'm not. But a lot of
I don't mean you necessarily, individually. I mean a person. If somebody says to me, is this protein powder any good? My first question is always going to be, why are you taking protein powder?
Well, I see people that make a lot of recipes, for example. Like carnivore or rest bread or carnivore, whatever.
My question would still be, why are you doing that?
Why are you doing? Okay.
What are you doing? Stop doing that.
Just eat the steak.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
meat and associated fat, plus or minus dairy, plus or minus eggs, salt and water. Rinse and repeat.
Optimal diet for you.
Well, yes, optimal. Now, as close to that as you can get, the better, but not everyone's going to be perfect. I'm not, remember? Still.
Yeah, of course. You have your moments. But what about organ meat? Are those essential? Should anyone eat them?
No,
even if
they're not essential. No, they're not essential. No. Unless you, muscle is an organ. So you could say, well, muscle meat is an organ, if you want to be really pedantic. What I'm suggesting is everything that you require as a human being, you will find in muscle meat and associated fat. You do not need to eat any organs ever. Now, you can eat some if you want to.
Were people in the past eating organs?
It would seem not so much. It would seem not so much. And if there is a problem with organs, it's likely to be with liver. Liver is not a superfood for human beings. Liver is not required by human beings. You will not be short of vitamin A if you don't have liver. You will not be short on anything if you don't eat liver, actually, necessarily. And if anything, the problem with liver seems to be around copper. Copper toxicity.
So you can get everything you need from just red meat, like ruminants, animals?
Yes.
What about fish? What about omega-3s, like DHA, EPA?
Well, there's some omega-3 to be found in red meat.
Is that enough?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we don't, eating fish is good for us, but it's not required if you don't like it.
That's right. I mean, the reason I say yes, there's enough is because I have not seen a report anywhere of a person eating nothing but red meat and associated fat who has presented with an omega-3 deficiency. And again, you're not going to diagnose an omega-3 deficiency by taking the level of omega-3 in someone's blood and suggesting that's a deficiency, because that's not appropriate.
What about vitamin C?
Vitamin C, yes, that's a classic one, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is vitamin C in meat. There is sufficient vitamin C in meat for a person who's eating nothing but meat and fat, actually. It's below the recommended daily intake, sure, but the recommended daily intake makes the assumption that you're eating a bunch of plant materials and carbohydrates, which would necessitate you consuming a larger amount of vitamin C. Because vitamin C transporter, the primary vitamin C transporter, is the same one for glucose.
So talking about fruits, you're very famous for explaining the Randall cycle, and there are a lot of people that are fan of the animal-based diet, so they're eating a lot of honey, a lot of fruits, along with fatty red meat or fatty meat. So a lot of fats and a lot of carbohydrates.
Yeah.
What happens in your body when you mix carbs and fats?
Right. What happens is the carbohydrates tend to blockade the fats, and the fats tend to blockade the carbohydrates. So what you've actually got is a situation where there is plenty of energetic substrate on hand that you could use to produce energy with, but nonetheless you're unable to use either one efficiently or effectively. This leads to a whole bunch of problems around glycation damage, around hepatic ATP concentration being dragged down, which is a very bad thing, around fatty liver disease, and around chronic systemic inflammation.
Even if the sugar is natural, right?
Yep. Sugar is sugar, and it all breaks down to the same thing.
Exactly. That's what, a lot of people don't understand.
I mean, you could say this cyanide's perfectly okay to eat because it's natural cyanide. No, it's still cyanide, and it'll still kill you.
So is there any difference between fructose and glucose?
Yes. One of them is a 5-carbon ring and one of them is a 6-carbon ring. Glucose is metabolizable in many different ways in the body, and fructose is much more limited. Most of the fructose that we consume, if we do consume any, has to be handled by the liver, and the metabolic pathway by which this occurs necessarily concomitantly leads to a reduction in the hepatic ATP concentration.
So if someone was to eat some carbohydrates, would it be better to eat honey or fruits or to eat table sugar or starches?
Well, it's a begging the question fallacy question, really. because a person should not eat carbohydrates.
If someone was to eat carbohydrates.
Then in terms of the level of damage,
yeah,
well, fructose is probably up there among the worst carbohydrates you can consume. So I would avoid fructose before I would start avoiding glucose, which means that you'd be eating pure glucose or starch, glucose starch that is, in preference to table sugar or fruit, because both of those contain a significant amount of fructose.
Mm-hmm.
However, let's get back to the main point, which is you should not eat any carbohydrates.
Maybe you can get them not to eat processed foods or not to eat high sugar content foods, but maybe they still want to include some potatoes or vegetables.
Okay, well, the problem with that is that when you eat a potato, it's made up of glucose starch, which will break down rapidly to glucose. Mm-hmm. If you eat the processed food that contains a lot of glucose in it inherently, it's exactly the same thing that you end up with. There is no difference.
There's no difference. Even if one is, they call it complex carbohydrates compared to simple carbohydrates, but they all break down to glucose at the end of the day. So
the whole argument that complex carbohydrates or starch is better to consume than glucose in its already broken down form is based on a thing called the GI scale. Mm-hmm. You've probably all heard of the GI scale. The problem with the GI scale is that it's nonsense. It's based on pseudoscience. It's based on a very small sample size of people. And what they found, actually, if you look at the statistics that underpin this GI scale, what you'll find is that the repeatability or reliability of the measurement from one individual to another on any given food challenge is so variable as to make the average result that they produce in these tables meaningless and of no utility. Even worse than that, while you and I will get a very different response to the exact same one piece of white bread, for example.
Yeah, sure.
If I test you on one piece of white bread, the same brand of white bread, today, tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, and next year, you will get a wildly different response every single time. Mm-hmm. The GI scale is laughable. It's not science. It's theology. It's another thing that has been put together by plant-based theologists who want to try and sell you that eating plants is a good idea. No, it isn't still.
So fibers is not good for you?
No. There is no evidence whatsoever anywhere in the literature that anyone can point to tell you that fiber is good for you in your diet. Mm-hmm. It's theology.
I had a very bad experience with fibers. I was suffering from crazy bloating for over a year, and I went to the doctors and they prescribed me all kinds of fibers and probiotics, and it only made it worse. And I nearly solved all of those problems that I had for multiple years in just a few weeks by cutting out all carbohydrates. It was insane. Just changed my life.
Yep. Anyone out there that doubts at all whether removing all fiber from your diet is a good idea or not, try it for a week. Try it for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. But it's so hard. They will try and scare you. They'll tell you, oh, no, if you don't have fiber, you won't be able to move your bowels. Nonsense. That's not true. Or you'll be more likely to get bowel cancer. Absolute nonsense. There is no evidence in support of that claim extant anywhere on the planet either. That's theology as well, bought and paid for theology. Basically, all of these ideas, they'll say, oh, what about your microbiome, though? Well, there's answers to that too. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the human microbiome. We don't know what a good microbiome even is. Mm-hmm. And this whole idea, good and bad microbiota? Oh, for goodness sake, really? It's like saying good and bad cholesterol. That doesn't exist either.
Explain a little bit about that.
About the cholesterol thing?
Because in my family and people when they discover that I only eat meat, egg, fish, or whatever, the first thing they say is aren't you worried about your cholesterol?
Right. Cholesterol is vital for life. Without sufficient cholesterol, you will die. The level of cholesterol in your body is almost entirely under the control of your genes. Your diet has very little impact on it, actually, long term whatsoever. There is no such thing as good and bad cholesterol because there is actually only one form of cholesterol in the human body. You can look this up in any biochemistry textbook you like. They're talking about the lipoprotein carriers of cholesterol, which aren't even cholesterol. They're carriers of it. And there aren't good and bad ones of those either. They all exist because they're encoded for by a length of DNA.
They have different functions in the body.
They have different functions. They all have their role to play. They're all good. Ain't no such thing as a bad lipoprotein. It's just rubbish.
If it's not cholesterol that causes heart disease, what is it?
Heart disease seems to be caused mostly by several factors. Turbulent blood flow is a very important required factor, it seems. And the damage to endothelial cell beds, either by mechanical forces, i.e. turbulence, and or glycation, sugar damage, and or by oxidative damage. Those are the factors involved in the development of heart disease.
What is glycation?
Glycation is the addition of sugar molecules binding themselves chemically to other structures in the body where they shouldn't be sugars, thus conformationally changing the shape of those molecules and breaking down their ability to function correctly, sometimes leading to a reaction to those new changed molecules by the immune system saying, that's not my native protein. I never generated it with that sugar appended. That one's got a sugar on. That's not me. I'm going to attack it.
What about oxidative stress? For example, they all recommend you should eat a lot of blueberries, because they have antioxidants.
Yeah, they also have pro-oxidants and anti-nutrients and irritants. Blueberries are quite innocuous, really. You can eat a small amount of blueberries in your diet and you're probably not going to have a real problem. Okay, don't quote me on that, but it's true. Eating a whole bunch of plant material, basing your diet on plant material and avoiding all the stuff where you're actually going to get nutrition, that's a bad idea. That will lead to problems, almost certainly. Different story. The whole idea that antioxidants should come from your diet is another theology. It's another idea that doesn't actually enjoy any scientific or even common sense backing. Because at the end of the day, oxidative damage is the removal of electrons from various structures in the body. You have a suite of antioxidants that your body produces itself. Most of those are protein-based, actually. Glutathione, for example, is the master, if you like. In the mitochondria, it's H2O2 dismutase, which does that role mostly. Secondly, a great way to get antioxidant activity is to ground yourself electrically to the earth. Thus, your body absorbs electrons directly from the earth into your body, and those electrons are attracted to the holes where electrons should be, i.e. repairing that damage directly. Again, it's a theology. It's an idea that we should get our antioxidants from our diet, and that's the only place we can get them from. It's just nonsense.
What are the other places you can get them from other than grounding?
Okay, so there's grounding. There's the suite of antioxidants that your body makes yourself.
Yes.
Vitamin C is an antioxidant, which there is some of in meat, even though meat generally says 0, because actually what that means is less than 1 per 100. But there is some, and it's enough. Urate/uric acid. That's an antioxidant. In fact, it's more powerful than is vitamin C in that regard. A lot of people just think, well, uric acid is the cause of gout, which it isn't. Actually, it's just coincident with it in some cases, But these ideas that almost everything you have ever heard about health as that relates to human diet, biochemistry, and all of that, almost all of it is theology. There is no science to be had. It does not exist. Why not? Well, because you can't do experiments on human beings. Ethics committees don't like it.
Yeah, the second thing they're worried about is gout and cancer from eating proteins.
Okay. Well, The most likely thing that's going to cause gout actually is a diet which is rich in fructose, not meat. And there is no evidence anywhere on this planet that can suggest to you that your likelihood of cancer is at all changed one way or the other by your diet. A lot of people say, red meat causes cancer. Well, show me some evidence for that. It does not exist.
Yeah, they always refer to a bunch of studies, but we all know that the studies are not.
So we're talking about epidemiology? Well, that's not science. Science is experimental, controlled, observed, and science actually reports observations that are made. Epidemiology reports made up outcomes that were not even observed, and nothing is controlled, and it's just anti-scientific claptrappery and nonsense. Also, the results of epidemiological studies in terms of differentials between one group and another, well, number one, that's the difference between one group and another, and there are other degrees of freedom at play, so it's nonsense. And secondly, those results are so close to zero over a 100-year lifespan as to make no odds to anybody. Plus, me, personally, I was not a member of any one of those studies. Neither were you, as far as I'm aware. You weren't, were you? So it doesn't apply to you. So those studies can't talk to you about your risk of anything because they're not you.
So what should we base nutritional science on, if not studies?
My opinion on that is that we should go to the hard sciences, and nutritional science is not a hard science. It's a theology. It's a bought and paid for theology, and it's claptrap. So what we need to go to is the anthropological data, the hard sciences in anthropology that tell us what human beings absolutely did eat throughout our evolutionary process. Well, that's the nitrogen 13, 14, the isotope testing, the stable isotope testing that tells us human beings absolutely have been at the highest trophic level, i.e. we got the vast majority of our nutrition from animal sources and almost none to speak of from plant sources.
Also, like if we go back in time, we wouldn't find all of these fruits and vegetables that the modern world it's used to. Like you go to the grocery store, you find bananas, avocados, mangoes, like from other parts of the world, which they would never exist to begin with.
That's right. They've been selectively bred for, haven't they?
Yeah,
they're a human invention.
They're all like. It was funny because I was doing a little research the other day. I was looking. Tell me, in California where I live, which type of vegetables and fruits grow in the wild, and they gave me a list of things that I have no idea what they are. Nothing that you could find in the market.
Yeah.
And they were probably using them for like medicinal purposes. Definitely not for eating them.
Yeah.
Unless they were like starving. I mean.
Yep. Yes, the modern fruits and vegetables are all human inventions. None of them were available to humans back when. And even if a few of them were in a form that's quite different from what it is now, not all of them, because they all come from different corners of the world, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the big ones is bananas are very important for you because they have potassium.
Well, I haven't eaten a banana in many, many years. I'm still here. So clearly they can't be that important.
Right.
Maybe there are other sources of potassium in the world.
Yeah, and then you can even, absorb most of the nutrients in plants. They come in different forms that the human body can't absorb, or we can only absorb a little bit of it. Like, for example, vitamin A compared to retinol, or vitamin K2 compared to vitamin K1.
Yeah, I mean, the plant versions of the same so-called vitamins are almost universally not usable by human beings and not transmittable by human beings to a meaningful degree. To get enough retinol, vitamin A, from beta-carotene, the plant-based version, for example, or the primary plant-based version, you would have to eat buckets and buckets and buckets of carrots every day.
Or even ALA, the omega-3.
Same deal.
We can even convert it to DHA. It's like, yeah, all of these vegans are promoting you need to eat a bunch of flax seeds or chia seeds, like, or soy or tofu or whatever. What is the problem with this type of foods?
Anti-nutrients, toxins like oxalate, for example, just to name one, pro-irritants, at the end of the day, a plant cannot run away from you, cannot hide under a rock, dive into a pond, or fly away from you. A plant is rooted to the spot. It needs to defend itself from being eaten somehow. So its means of self-defense is chemical warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Most plant toxins are designed to kill insects effectively and quickly, and they do.
They do.
But there's an arms race between, the insects and the plants largely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of these toxins won't kill a human being stone dead, but they will cause you a problem over a lifetime of eating that stuff. Mm-hmm. Some plant toxins will kill you stone dead. Let's be honest. Some of them will. Of all the plants on the planet, something like 95% of them are inedible by humans because they will kill you immediately. And something like 95% plus of the animals existent on this planet can be eaten by humans. Mm-hmm. That should tell you something.
So if we were in the wild, we would never eat that much carbohydrates like people do right now. Like, no. I don't think people...
And we know this for a fact because the isotope testing tells us this. It's a fact. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went hunting the other day and I was looking around in the woods and there was nothing edible. Not one piece of fruit. So what do?
You starve if you believe that you should not eat animals.
Yeah, right. Going back to your diet. Yeah. Do you eat your meat cooked or raw?
It ranges, depending on how I'm feeling that day, between rare and what I call medium well done and what my partner calls I can't be your friend anymore.
Is it better to eat it raw or cooked?
Depends how you feel on any day. I have no problem with people eating their meat raw if that's what they want to do, personally. I also do not accept that is preferable in any way.
Okay.
I have eaten a largely carnivorous diet, as I've said, for well over a decade now. I am not deficient that I'm aware of in anything. Neither am I showing any symptoms that I could possibly be deficient in anything, except patience, perhaps, with imbeciles. Who knows? That's for another day. Yeah. So there's no huge difference between cooked meat and raw meat in terms of nutrient profile and your ability to get what you need.
Cook the meat, you don't lose any nutrients.
Oh, that's not what I'm saying. There is a change in the nutrient available in meat once it's cooked. Yes, some of the nutrients go down. However, does that mean that a person who eats only cooked meat is likely to end up with a deficiency of any kind? No, because there's still enough.
Is there like any amount of meat that you should try to eat every day to get all of the nutrients you need?
2 grams of protein in the form of mostly red meat per lean kilogram of body mass per day, plus or minus about 10%, it seems.
All right, so I think it's time to get into the calorie.
So, rightio, good fun.
Okay.
Good fun.
So, yeah. What do you think about the famous calories in, calories out? Because
it's nonsense.
So you think the source of the calories matter more than the amount?
Right. Okay. Let's be clear on this. Let's go back. Let's go back to the very beginning here because we need to understand this. Calories have nothing whatsoever to do with metabolic process. Calories, by their definition, by the very way they are measured, by the way they are manifest in our objective reality, calories are a specific form of the construct known as energy. In this case, a calorie is a measurement of heat energy, kinetic energy. A calorie does not exist until it is released to entropy. It is brought into being the instant it is created. And the way to create it is to rapidly oxidize, burn a substance of food in a bomb calorimeter, thus releasing heat to entropy, which then strikes the walls of the bomb calorimeter, excites those and causes them to heat up, and then that interacts with a bath of water that the whole thing's in and heats the water up. And a calorie is that amount of kinetic energy which will heat 1 gram of water by 1 degree C from 20 to 21 at normal barometric pressure.
So if calories doesn't matter at all, what does make someone...
That's not what I said.
fat? Oh, that's okay.
That's not what I said. What I said is calories have nothing whatsoever to do with metabolic process. Nothing at all. The form of energy that the metabolic system runs on is potential energy, chemical potential energy in this case, and that is a form of energy which is manifest in terms of the relationship in space-time between one thing and another thing, not its movement. Because movement is heat energy, potential energy is positional energy.
So does it have anything to do with weight gain or weight loss?
Correct. Because a calorie is manifest in our objective reality as an excitation or a number of excitations of the electromagnetic field. Photons. Photons have no rest mass. 0. What does that mean? Well, when I went to school, any number you like, plus or minus any number of zeros, remains unchanged, doesn't it? We're done with calories. They've got nothing to do with weight gain or loss, nothing whatsoever. The only way to lose weight or to gain weight is to lose or gain mass. Things that do have a rest mass, things that do interact with the Higgs field, and a photon is not one of those things.
So some people, when they start eating more mass, like more food in general, they start losing weight.
Yes.
Why does that happen?
Well, it happens because your body responds to the makeup of the mass that you're taking in hormonally in such a way as to set your metabolism up to either gain or to offload mass. Most of us are so used to using the term calories to refer to so-called energy in food that we cannot conceive of the fact that fundamentally that's an error. That's a misrepresentation of the objective reality in which we find ourselves. That does not stand up from first principles. And when I give this argument, even to so-called sophisticated so-called scientists, they end up falling over their tongues. People with PhDs, they can't cope with it. And the best they can come up with is, well, energy is fungible, meaning it can change from one form to another. So there is an equivalency mathematically between a caloric measurement of energy and, let's say, a potential measurement of energy. Yes, there is a mathematical interconversion possible. However, to convert one form of energy to another form of energy, you need a piece of machinery or a piece of kit to do it. Does the human body have that piece of kit that can encapsulate heat energy and use that for metabolic process? No, it doesn't. If it did, we could just sit in the sun. We wouldn't need food. We do need food. We can't sit in the sun and survive. We're done. Yes, you can convert a calorie to, let's say, a kilojoule, or let's say its equivalence in terms of ATP in the human. Yes, you can mathematically do that, with an error, of course, because it's not going to be 100% accurate. Nonetheless, that's hypothetical. It's like, I live in New Zealand, if you didn't know. One of those is of no value to me here whatsoever. I cannot go to the shop, put this on the counter and say, my good man, I want a bottle of sugar water. Number one, because I'm not so stupid as to ask for sugar water. And number two, because they'll say that's not legal currency here. Go to the bank and change it. They've got the kit to do it. We don't. Same deal with the human body. We cannot use heat, energy, for metabolic process.
So
in fact, metabolic process evolves heat as an insensible loss to entropy. But the whole idea of calories is ridiculous. It's fundamentally ridiculous.
Okay, so if someone that is eating a proper human diet, let's say a carnivore diet, eating meat and fat, ruminants or whatever, if they wanted to lose fat, what would they do? They would have to eat less mass than they require?
No, Not necessarily. What a person needs to do to set their body up to metabolically place themselves in the best likelihood of getting the most ideal body composition as per their genetic makeup is to do exactly what you suggested they should do, and that is to eat a species-appropriate, species-specific diet and adhere well enough for long enough, because it's a process. It's not a magic bullet. It does work, but it takes some time because, well, you've got to overcome all the metabolic damage that you've done to yourself up to that point, including you've got to get rid of inflammation before your body will throw off the fat.
So let's say someone starts the carnivore diet and initially they lose a lot of weight and then they stop. What's happening there?
Well, a couple of things could be happening. They could be taking in more mass of food than they require.
Which the mass that they require is 2 grams of protein per kilogram of weight.
And an amount of fat commensurate with their energy requirements, which change from day to day. That's why I say satiety is your best gauge on that.
There's an amount of protein that we require, but the amount of fat varies day to day.
Yes. I mean, your protein requirements can vary as well, but not as much as your fat requirements will because, well, for obvious reasons, I would have thought.
So if you want to lose weight, you don't have to eat less fat.
No, not necessarily. What you need to do is eat in such a way as to place your hormonal and inflammatory systems into their ideal configuration, and then the rest will follow.
How do you know that?
Well, you'll feel good, you'll have good energy, and over a period of time, you will either remain weight stable or your weight will start to drop. And when I say weight, I mean your fatness. Not weight. It's got nothing to do with your weight. Goodness me, I should smack myself around the head.
Well, we're still used to, use calories.
Exactly. It's the same as using calories. Calories and weight. No, neither of those are relevant. Because see, the thing is, if my goal is to lose weight, well, I could just amputate my legs, couldn't I?
Yeah.
Then the job's good and I don't have to wait. There's no struggling with diet or disciplining myself. Just cut your legs off. Job's done. I weigh less. That's awesome. It's not awesome though, is it?
No.
It's not awesome at all.
So one question I had that now it doesn't make any sense anymore, because I was going to ask you, people when they fast for multiple days, or even if they have only one meal a day, they usually eat less than they would eat if they had 3 meals a day every day. So that technically puts them in a calorie deficit.
No.
No.
Because, you see, the thing is, you cannot consume calories. It's physically impossible. So what we're talking about is either an overplus or a deficit of so-called energetic substrates in the form of fats or carbohydrates, mostly. Sure, you can use some protein for energy if you don't have enough fats and carbohydrates. And sure, if you consume alcohol, that can be used for energy as well. Let's ignore those two. And let's say the average person is using a mixture of carbohydrates and fats for energy. The ideal situation is to use fats and not carbohydrates for energy. That's what we've been talking about for the last hour. But the average person is going to have a mixture of those things. And that's a mistake, as we've said. But nonetheless, that's what people do. So in order for you to have less fat on your body, the balance of the carbohydrates, the fats, the proteins, the water, and all the other macro and micronutrients is what's important. A lot of people talk about calories in, calories out. Well, that's nonsense. Mass in, mass out is not nonsense. That's an accurate description of what has occurred retrospectively. For a person, any given person's mass and their body composition, that's about mass in and mass out. But it still isn't a predictive sum.
People that count calories and eat less than technically what they should in terms of mass or energy, they have a reduction in their calorie output, their metabolism.
Yes. Well, yes, if you assume that the calorie is a valid measurement of anything, and if you completely ignore the physical fact that you can not consume calories, neither can you spend calories because they have no rest mass.
What happens to their metabolism? Why do we see?
What you're suggesting is if you don't eat enough food, will your metabolism slow down?
Yeah.
In order to try and counteract that, and the answer is yes, it will. Yes.
But that doesn't happen with fasting. If you undereat in terms of mass and you're fasting, or you're fasting too much.
It can do if you do the fasting inappropriately or for too long, or a combination of doing it wrong for too long. Yes, you can mess up your metabolic rate that way.
Based on, let's say, circadian rhythms and the different hormones that we have at different times of the days, what would be the best time to eat?
When you're hungry.
For 1 meal a day.
Pick one time of the day that's most suitable for you to eat in terms of the convenience of it. Train your body to expect food at that time. Do it for long enough, and it
takes for your body.
How long's a piece of string? Everyone's a bit different as to how quickly their bodies will react to a new habit. But I found it was pretty quick for me.
So you don't feel hungry at all?
Nope.
Until your meal?
That's right, until my meal time. And then I go, oh, I'm hungry, it's meal time. Right, then I eat, then I don't feel hungry anymore until the next day. It's awesome.
Is it better to eat, for example, first in the morning, midday, or late in the evening?
Nope.
So late in the evening doesn't impact your sleep quality?
But it can do. If you find that it does, then eat earlier.
I see.
That's individual as well.
Okay, because I was convinced of that. You should eat earlier so you have enough time for digestion. Or when the sun goes down, you're not supposed to eat anymore.
Not convinced. Not convinced. That's the thing of being, so highly trained scientifically, is anytime someone says this is best, that's best, I always say, what's your source on that? Where's the proof of that?
Yeah, so optimal would be just what's better for you.
That's right. So mess around and find out. You could phrase that slightly differently if you wanted to in your own mind, but you know what I mean.
And for a woman that has more estrogen or more progesterone based on the time of her 28-day cycle, fasting doesn't matter, doesn't change the hormonal profile of a woman.
I'm not convinced. I think if a person, be they female or be they male, notice there were two options there, if they eat a species-appropriate, species-specific diet, I think they'll find that everything will be optimized in times if you do it well enough for long enough.
It's also back in the day, it's not that the women were eating more often than the men. Like, they had the same food availability all year round, right? Okay. What would be the thing that you would change, the most essential thing that you would change in someone's diet to begin with?
If I had to say the most important thing for a person to do, I would say lose the seed oils, all of them, immediately. Get them out of your diet. Second most important, lose the carbohydrates and plant materials, all of them, or as close to that as you can possibly achieve. So
the keto diet, for example, that's not a good diet because it includes a whole bunch of, plants.
Most keto diets are nonsense. They're based on a fundamentally flawed idea, i.e. the idea that the goal is ketogenesis all the time and the highest level possible. Still nonsense. I wouldn't suggest a keto diet to most people. I would suggest the thing that a person needs to undertake is a species-appropriate, species-specific diet, and that is 100% carnivore with 2 grams per kilo of lean mass protein intake per day, preferably in one meal. Fat to satiety, plus or minus eggs, plus or minus dairy, salt and water, rinse and repeat. If you own keto sticks, throw them in the garbage. You don't need those ever. Don't test your ketones. Don't post on social media, will this kick me out of ketosis? Don't do it, because you'll find me coming after you. Or if it's not me coming after you, it might be this guy.
Oh, yes. What was his name?
Yellow Ted, or Lord Edward Yellow, or sometimes just Ted. He's the real brains around here. He's in charge.
Back in the day, what type of animals were we hunting?
Large ruminants mostly. Mostly large ruminants, most people.
Where does animal vary fat or more lean compared to the type of meat that we find at the market, for example?
Ruminants tend to be fatter than gamey type meats. And
so cows compared to a deer?
Cow's fattier than a deer by a long way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But back in the day, were we eating more?
Well, it depends on how far back in the day you're talking about.
Let's say,
Because if you go back far enough, it's mammoths.
Yeah.
And, large megafauna.
When you want to choose a cut of meat at the market, do you want the one that has a lot of extra fat, or do you want the one that looks more lean?
The fattier, the better.
The fattier, the better.
Yeah.
So if you start eating, for example, a cut of meat that's very fat, and you get full very quickly from the amount of fat, and you can hit your protein intake.
I've never had a problem with it personally.
Okay. What about the marbling in the meat?
All good. Marbling's awesome. Yeah, Wagyu. Love Wagyu. That's awesome
Really?
stuff.
Isn't that like compared to visceral fat for humans?
It is quite similar.
So it's not problematic. It's not pro-inflammatory.
No, why would it be?
I'm asking you.
The answer is no. Why would it be? I'm always encouraging people to think about what they've been told by someone rather than repeating what they've been told by someone, expecting someone else to answer the question for you. So what I'm saying is, well, why would it be? Have you ever thought about that? It's not to put you on the spot. It's to be educational for everybody.
Absolutely. Because I thought that visceral fat was pro-inflammatory or was like a bad type of fat that
Who told you
humans
that?
avoid having in their body. And so,
well, it's bad to have visceral fat on your own body. Yes, you
so
don't want too much visceral.
A cow that is morbidly obese, unhealthier than a cow that is healthy, like grass-fed.
I have never had a health problem because a cow's been fat.
Okay. Because they
Because if a cow is over fat for a cow, then that cow is going to have health problems for that cow. But that cow's fatness is not going to affect my health.
I see.
Yeah.
So when I choose, for example, ground beef at the grocery store, should I go for 10%, 20%, 30%?
The fattier, the better.
The fattier, the better. Okay.
Based on what you are actually able to get from the butcher, by the way. I mean, there is such a thing as too much fat, but you're not going to get that from the butcher because the whole society is set up to tell us to avoid fat and to give you not enough fat. Most ground beef, you're going to have to add fat to it to get it to be an acceptable level of fat because they purposely keep it lean.
Level of fat?
Well, for me, an acceptable level of fat is enough that you are satisfied having eaten 2 grams per kilo of lean mass of the protein, and there's enough fat attendant with that you feel satisfied.
Okay, so everybody should just experiment with different
amounts of fat. The thing is, you've evolved with a sense of hunger and satiety. It's there for a reason. And it's far more accurate than anything that anyone will tell you based on what some computer program tells you should be eating. You won't see pictures of cavemen standing around with calculators or putting their stuff into chronometer. You'll see them, throwing sharp pointy sticks at the fatty animals.
Well, I still find myself sometimes eating even if I'm not hungry, or eating past fullness,
Yeah.
Like not noticing that I'm full, and then I keep eating, and after that I feel like I'm too full.
Yeah. That's something to be mindful of. That's a thing that's developed in Western society, and it's developed because of frankenfoods, habits.
How do you know if you're actually hungry and you're not like just bored or you just have a mild?
Okay. If you say to yourself, geez, I feel a bit hungry, or you get that sense that you're hungry, offer yourself some fatty meat. Do you want some fatty meat? No, I don't want that. You're not hungry.
You're not hungry. Yeah, that's what I usually tell people.
Yeah.
Okay.
In that case, you're just craving, and you're probably craving sugar, in which case you should ignore that completely. All
right. Well, this conversation was awesome. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
Oh, not really. Just, I mean, if people do want to follow me, if they've found some value in what I've had to say, the easiest place to find me is at Bart-Kay on the YouTubes. That's where my main channel is. I also would like to make it very clear that I believe everybody should be taking Cereal Stem Enhance. There it is.
Which is what?
That is a natural stem cell enhancing nutraceutical product. And what it does is it causes your bone marrow to release your adult stem cells to your bloodstream, upon which they do magics around your body, repairing and replacing cells and tissues that need repairing and replacing. Awesome.
Is there any other supplement that you would recommend?
Yes, Cyactive and Plasma Flow, which are the other two main nutraceutical products put together by the same company, with which I am joint ventured. And yes, I'll get a commission if you go and buy it. Absolutely. Why shouldn't I? But they do what they say they do on the tins. Well, they're actually plastic bottles, but that's also for another day.
What about vitamin D, magnesium, and electrolyte? Those are like the big three.
Right. Most nutritional, if not all nutritional supplements are completely unnecessary if you're eating a species-appropriate, species-specific diet. The products that I'm talking about here are nutraceuticals. They have specific effects and they're not nutritional effects. There are no nutrient deficiencies on a species-appropriate diet.
Not even vitamin D, if you don't get enough sun exposure?
Well, there you go. See, vitamin D is produced mostly when UV light hits your skin. And it's in the same pathway as the molecules that cholesterol comes from, by the way. So if your diet is appropriate and you get enough sun, then you don't need vitamin D supplements. And if you are going to take a vitamin D supplement, I suggest you get one that is not presented in a seed oil.
No magnesium. We don't need any magnesium or electrolytes.
Not usually.
Not usually. Do you use salt?
I do. Yep. Oh. Salt to taste. Again, you've got good instincts on that.
Yeah, for sure. That one. All right. Well, cool. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
And hopefully I will get to talk to you again.
I'm sure you will.
Okay.
I'm sure you will. Cool.
All right. Thank you so much.